Hello everybody, Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we're going to be talking about my top 7 tips for silver stackers. Now this is a really important video. I put a lot of thought into it, and it's good for either refocusing if you have, maybe getting caught up in some of the new ideas. I think it's good to sort of hone in on why you're doing it. Also, if you're a beginner, I think I'll go through some important tips that can save you money and give you a much better experience with silver stacking. A little bit of context in terms of where I'm at. Precious metals in general across the board probably make up about 13% of my investment portfolio, which is really high compared to what most people do. That's going to be maybe lower than some of you watching the video, and I don't even know if I would recommend people do as much precious metals investing as I do, but I really enjoy it, and it's been something that I've picked up over time. I store most of it in a safety deposit box. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I've put a fair amount of thought into this video, so I want you guys to tell me your comments below. But with that being said, we'll get into the first tip. So the first tip that we're going to be going over is, do you have your silver? Now, it might be 20 minutes away at the bank like it is in my case, or it could be on your possession, and those are two cases that I think are a little different, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but I really like stacking this physically. Now, there can be advantages if you want to be a trader. You think there's going to be some really short-term price movements in silver, or it could extend to any precious metal. Then you could purchase it online, but I think for the stacking purpose, I really would strongly urge you to own the silver in person. I don't think that there's like massive price manipulation. I know that that's a popular thing to talk about online. I haven't done enough research and seen enough research that convinces me of that being the case, but I can tell you that there is a lot of value in having the store of value physically. Maybe it's having some cash as well if you don't really have any interest in gold or silver, having some fiat money on your person as opposed to everything being online, whether it's a moment where you're unable to access, the internet goes out, power goes out, something like that. I think it's great to have money stored away electronically in the bank, but it is also good to have some on hand, and that can be the problem with storing it at a bank like I do. For me, it's sort of a safety concern given that I have this YouTube channel especially. Most of you will, I'll just say it right now, tip number 2, should not be telling people about your silver stack or your stack in general outside of some really trusted family members, because it would be a shame if you say an accident happened and you passed on. You wouldn't want to have your silver or gold, it's physical, so it's not going to be recovered if people check your online assets. If it's tucked away under a floorboard or at a safety deposit box that you only know about, maybe it'll be gone forever. So really don't tell people. On the other hand, have a few people that you know and trust. But again, the downside of that safety deposit box is that you have to go and get it. So if the bank did close down and there was some apocalyptic situation, you might not be able to have access to that silver and gold. But personally, I'm not, the more and more as we get along, I don't know, maybe there is an apocalyptic situation. I don't know how silver and gold necessarily, I don't think that you can go to a functional grocery store and pay with your little bar of silver because people don't want to be taking cash. I think that there's other situations that silver can be helpful, providing liquidity, a good vehicle for not spending money on things like a nice handbag as opposed to something that's more of a store of value. That's still fun to own and collect and get that itch of having something that's fancy and a tangible store. But I think that the silver and the gold, you probably want to consider having it at home. You could get robbed. That's whether it's somebody that who knows that you have it, or just by chance. But that is a possibility and something that you want to be careful of. But I do it with the safety deposit box, and I'll make a video about the safety deposit box versus storing it in your basement or closet or desk or wherever you might store it. Number 3 is going to be how you stack it, and my personal preference is to go for low premium items. So if I was making this video 3 years ago, I made some similar videos saying time to buy American Silver Eagles, but the premiums on those are 30-40% over the value of silver. and that's really a bad deal. So you want to go as close to spot as you can, while maintaining the standards. What I would say is 90% US constitutional or junk silver. That's very recognized, easily tradable. 40%, 35% tougher to melt, not as well liked by people. I've seen people saying they like 40%, these low percentage, because of the small amount of premium you can pay. Maybe you're paying at spot or even a little bit under, but I really prefer the higher purity silver. If you have American Silver Eagles or like 1 ounce government rounds and you can acquire them really cheaply for small premiums, that can be a good idea as well, just because they're really well recognized, and each one of those is 1 ounce, the common trading unit. People think of the price of silver in ounce terms, so it's a nice thing to have. Those are often 0.999, and then you can also follow up if you want to get into larger storing, and you're not going to get like a monster box of 100 or 500 American Silver Eagles or Canadian Maple Leafs. You can consider going for, I like 10 ounce bars, because you can still break them up. If you're in a position where you can buy a ton of 10 ounce bars, it's still only like $250 at a time, say, that you'd have to shave it off, as opposed to buying 1,000 ounce bar, which is going to be not that economical to move around, and you won't be able to sell, say, half of it if you want to. The 10 ounce is going to have a nice, you can still get pretty fine while also not having everything in little 1 ounce bar segments. So that's how I would physically stack it, and I'll get into more of that in the future. And then circling back to something I had alluded to, with your stack, I would have it really well written out and clearly labeled, because say there's some items in there that are slightly more numismatic, or if there is potential on that side, or even just explaining what it is, that the 90% junk silver isn't viewed as just a bunch of coins that you have laying around, and it's clear that this should be either kept for the silver value by ancestors or whoever inheritors, or people you're trading it with, or it's like you should sell this and have a clear path on how to do that. Maybe some of the material is really easy to sell at like a local store. Others of it, there's certain silver forms that are going to be much more collectible. Maybe a really collectible silver bar with a lot of history to it, a rare Engelhard bar, for example. I've worked with some of those, and that those should be auctioned or something like that, sold, whether it's on eBay by the person receiving it or sent to an auction house. There's a lot of different possibilities, but you really want to label it well, have clear instructions in the case of an accident or you passing on, so that you can sort of bestow the effect that you want it to in terms of saving and preserving your wealth, and that wealth can then be passed on or properly used in the future. Another really important reminder is to dollar cost average, or at least not get really caught up in price swings, because I think I get very emotional sometimes with my silver buys. I tend to buy when the price is going up. I'm going to be honest. I have done solid with silver, but I could have, if I had owned all the silver when it was like trading at $15 a few years ago with really low premiums, I would have done better than my having purchased it on the upswing. And there's one specific purchase that stands out. I think the price of silver had like hit 28, 29, and I was excited. No, it was like 20. It fell a little bit down to 26 again or something like that, but I paid more over premium than I should have from a local dealer, and I was just excited to put some money into silver, but it wasn't really the best thought out. And I also at that point purchased to make videos on some silver 1 ounce government rounds that were pretty high premium, but it probably wasn't worth doing that. I enjoy collecting it, and that's something you have to think about, not being super focused on the value all the time. But if you are doing this, as most people do, with an investment strategy in mind, my situation is different as somebody who also speaks about it from a YouTube perspective, educational, and history behind some of these 1 ounce rounds. That's a separate case, but you should have a clear plan, whether that's investing, $100 or $200 a month into silver, or it's going to be doing that every 100 or 200 to start the year, or it's going to be several thousand a month depending on where you are in your financial journey. I think that you want to take emotions as much out of the equation as possible, because it always feels like the price is going up and everybody wants to buy more, and then the price starts coming down. I remember I was working in a shop and somebody came in and they had like $40 worth of silver, and they were like, well, hey, I bought this last year for like 36 and is it time to sell for 40, and the gas money that the person had probably spent coming to the store had eroded all of that, and they weren't really gonna, they weren't gonna buy much more. It really, it's fun to think about that sort of thing, but I don't think silver is a good one, especially physical silver, as I recommend doing it for the stacking purposes. Is something that's good to be getting in and out of, and it's more of like, here's a store of value. Again, maybe I would have spent the money on something that won't store its value at all. You need to spend some stuff on experiences too, but there can be a good, I guess, say if you're currently smoking cigarettes, you could stop smoking and then put that money into tangible silver, and I promise you, I think you'll be happy that you made that decision in 2 or 3 years. I know somebody that did something similar, and it worked out really well for them, both from a health and a wealth perspective. So maybe it's not going to be 7 tips. I think I've gone a little bit over that, but I think that you shouldn't pour all of your money into silver. I think it's fun, but I think that there's other, whether it's investment products or life expenses. I see some people, like my being in the low double digits portfolio-wise, I think is way high. I'm going to let it catch up. I think in 2022 I will be making a few silver purchases. I'm going to outline that in a video because I'm more excited to do it rather than it's like the best investment advice. But I still like increasing my exposure, ownership of silver a little bit, and gold will go along with that too. But I don't think it's something that you should be allocating 50% of your portfolio. There are some downsides. It's at a somewhat high price, but there's also, it's just like buying something really to resell it. If you're physical silver, it's less of like a cash flowing investment. It's just like a commodity. You have it, and hopefully it'll be sold for more in the future, or it'll preserve its wealth relative to the dollar. That's a whole different conversation, but I'm not somebody that would advocate pouring, and again, it's not investment advice, but like every last drop of money that you have into silver. That's not how I'm doing it, at least. And I think you don't want to get carried away or have your identity be, in the silver stuff. That's not very smart. Last tip, it's going to be keep it simple. So like I said, if there's just one formula that you want to follow, just go for 90% melt junk constitutional silver from the United States pre-1965. So 1964 and back. That's super simple. At the moment, lowest premiums. Ideally, you can source it from somebody in person, like a dealer in person, so you can pay really low fees. Because some of the online stores are going to order, you'll have to pay more in premiums. But I don't think that, once you stack a bunch, it can be fun to like diversify, get some poured art bars, get some sort of artistic silver. I have a lot of that, and I think more than half of the reason I bought it in that form is because it's cool to display if I'm making a video about silver. So again, that's like the little YouTube angle of somebody who enjoys precious metals, but also enjoys making the content around it. I think for people just who want to stack from a probably smart sort of value-focused way, you want to keep your stacks simple and not buy into like little gimmicks and things that try to increase the value. It's either just going to be a silver investment, or then you can get into something like numismatics or something along those lines. But hope that this was helpful. My 7 tips for stacking silver. Let me know how you would change this video or what else you might do. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. I've also got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can follow me there. TreasuretownYT.com is the main channel website. Definitely give that a visit. I've got a lot of information about me up there and the channel. CoinGrabBag.com as well currently redirects there, but it's some good opportunities for very fair grab bags, both made by me and other sellers. A lot of different options, so that's a good way to support. There's also TreasuretownCoins.com. In the future, my coin dealing operation will be done out of that website. CoinMeltPrice.com for updates on the melt prices of your coins, both US and world. A lot of resources in that website. And then CoinsMetalsCards.com being developed right now as a marketplace and news source for coins, metals, cards, and collectibles in general. So I'll see you on my future videos. Looking forward to seeing you there, and hope you have a good day.